Danny Cole had never expected to be part of history. He was just an engineer. He fixed things that broke. He kept air flowing and lights working. That was his job. Nothing more. But here he was, standing on Station Accord, the first neutral platform built for contact between humans and the Kethrani Dominion. The station floated in empty space, far from any star system. It belonged to no one. That was the point. The Kethrani were not like humans. They had 4 arms and 2 legs. Their skin was hard like armor, colored in shades of deep purple and black. Their eyes were large and golden, and they glowed faintly in the dark. They did not smile. They did not laugh. They watched everything with cold patience, and they were powerful. The Kethrani Dominion ruled 12 star systems. Their fleets were massive. Their weapons were advanced. When they first made contact with humanity, many people feared it would mean war, but the Kethrani did not attack. They sent a message instead. They wanted to talk. That was why Station Accord existed. That was why Danny was here. He stood near a window and watched as the Kethrani fleet arrived. Dozens of ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, their dark hulls catching the light of distant stars. They moved in perfect formation, like a single living thing. At the center of the fleet was the largest ship Danny had ever seen. It was shaped like a crescent moon, and its surface was covered in glowing blue lines. Those lines pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. "That's the Queen's vessel," said Captain Lisa Grant. She stood beside Danny, her arms crossed. She was the leader of the human diplomatic team. She was calm and sharp, and Danny respected her. "The Queen herself is coming?" Danny asked. "Queen Valshira," Grant said. "Ruler of the entire Dominion. She doesn't send representatives. She handles important matters personally." Danny swallowed. "No pressure, then." Grant smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. "Just do your job, Cole. Keep the station running. Let the diplomats handle the rest." Danny nodded. That was the plan. Stay in the background. Fix what needed fixing. Stay out of the way. The Queen arrived within the hour. Danny was not there to see it. He was below decks, checking the water recycling system. But he heard about it from others. They said she was tall, nearly 7 feet. They said her armor skin was darker than the others, almost black, with lines of soft blue light running across her body. They said she moved like a predator, slow and certain. They said her eyes saw everything. The negotiations began that same day. Danny did not know what was discussed. That was above his level. He only knew that tensions were high. The Kethrani guards stood in every corridor, watching the humans with their glowing eyes. The humans watched them back. No one trusted anyone. Not yet. Danny kept to his work. He liked it that way. Machines made sense to him. They had problems, and problems had solutions. People were more complicated. On the 3rd night, everything changed. Danny was asleep in his quarters when his communicator beeped. There was a malfunction in the life support sector. One of the air filtration units had failed. It was not an emergency yet, but it would be if no one fixed it soon. He groaned and got out of bed. He pulled on his work clothes and grabbed his tools. The corridors were empty at this hour. Most of the station was asleep. He reached the life support sector and found the problem quickly. A valve had gotten stuck. Simple fix. He worked in silence, his hands moving through familiar motions. Within an hour, the system was running again. Danny packed up his tools and started walking back to his quarters. The station was quiet. His footsteps echoed on the metal floor. He passed through a section he did not usually visit. It was near the Kethrani side of the station, but still in neutral territory. He walked faster, not wanting to cause any trouble. Then he heard something, a sound, almost like breathing, but not quite. Danny stopped. He looked around. The corridor was empty, but the sound continued. It was coming from behind a partially open door. He should have walked away. He knew that. But something made him step closer. Something made him look. Through the gap in the door, he saw a figure. It was sitting on the floor, leaning against the wall. In the dim light, he could see the shape of 4 arms, the gleam of armor skin, the faint glow of blue lines. Thought it was a Kethrani. And it was alone. Danny's heart beat faster. He should leave. He should report this. But the figure did not move. It sat perfectly still, and the breathing sound continued. Was it hurt? He pushed the door open a little more. The figure's head turned toward him. Golden eyes met his dot. It was the Queen. Danny froze. Queen Velshira stared at him. Her eyes were wide, and for a moment, she looked almost surprised. Almost vulnerable. Then the moment passed. Her expression became cold and distant. "Human," she said. Her voice was deep and smooth. "You should not be here." "I'm sorry," Danny said quickly. "I was just passing through. I heard a sound. I thought someone might be hurt." The Queen studied him. Her eyes moved over his face, his clothes, his tools. She did not speak for a long time. "You are an engineer," she said finally. It was not a question. "Yes. You fix things." "Yes." She tilted her head slightly. "Can you fix the need to sleep?" Danny blinked. "I don't understand." The Queen looked away. "It does not matter." "Leave me." Danny hesitated. Every instinct told him to obey. She was the most powerful being in 12 star systems. But there was something in her voice. Something tired. Something lonely. "Are you all right?" he asked. The Queen turned back to him. For a moment, her eyes softened. Then she stood, rising to her full height. She towered over him. "Go back to your quarters, human," she said. "Forget you saw me here." Danny nodded. He stepped back, and the door slid shut between them. He walked back to his quarters in a daze. He did not understand what had happened. He did not understand why the Queen of the Kethrani Dominion had been sitting alone in a dark corridor in the middle of the night. But he did as she asked. He went back to his small room. He took off his work clothes. He lay down in his bed, and despite everything, he fell asleep. He did not know that he was not alone for long. Danny woke slowly. His body felt warm, warmer than usual. There was a weight against his side, something pressing gently against him. He opened his eyes. For a moment, his brain could not understand what he was seeing. There was someone in his bed, someone with dark armor skin and forearms, someone whose face was inches from his own. Queen Velshira was asleep in his arms. Danny stopped breathing. His heart slammed against his ribs. Every muscle in his body locked tight. This was impossible. This was insane. The ruler of 12 star systems was curled against him like a child seeking warmth. Her forearms were wrapped loosely around his torso. Her head rested near his shoulder. Her eyes were closed. She was sleeping. Actually, sleeping. Danny did not move. He could not move. If he woke her, if she realized what had happened, what would she do? Would she kill him? Would she start a war? Would humanity be destroyed because he had somehow ended up holding an alien queen in his bed? His mind raced through 1,000 terrible possibilities. But he forced himself to stay calm. Panicking would not help. He looked at her more closely. In sleep, she looked different. The hard lines of her face had softened. The blue lines on her skin, which had seemed cold and sharp before, now glowed with a gentle warmth. They pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat at rest. She looked peaceful. She looked tired. Danny remembered what he had seen last night. The Queen sitting alone in the dark. The exhaustion in her voice. The strange question she had asked him. Can you fix the need to sleep? What had she meant by that? Minutes passed. Danny lay perfectly still. He watched her breathe, in and out, in and out, slow and deep. Finally, her eyes opened. For a long moment, she did not move. Her golden eyes stared at nothing. Then, slowly, awareness returned to them. She blinked. She turned her head. She saw Danny. She did not scream. She did not attack. She simply stared at him with an expression he could not read. "Human," she said. Her voice was rough, like she had not used it in a long time. "My name is Danny," he said. His voice came out steadier than he expected. "Danny," she repeated. The words sounded strange in her mouth. "Why am I here?" "I don't know," he said honestly. "I woke up, and you were here." The Queen looked down at herself, at her arms wrapped around him, at the small human bed they shared. She pulled away slowly, sitting up on the edge of the bed. Her movements were stiff, uncertain. "This is not possible," she said quietly. "I do not sleep." Danny sat up too, keeping distance between them. "What do you mean?" She turned to look at him. Her eyes were troubled. "Among my kind, queens do not sleep. We enter a meditative state, a trance. We remain aware, always. To truly sleep is to be vulnerable, to be weak. It is forbidden." "But you were sleeping just now," Danny said. "Yes." The word came out like a confession. "I have not slept in 47 of your years, not since I became queen." Danny's eyes widened. 47 years without sleep. He could not imagine it. "How is that possible?" he asked. "My body does not need sleep the way yours does," she said. "The trance sustains me, but it is not the same. There is no rest, no peace, only endless awareness." She looked at her hands. "Last night, I could not find stillness. My mind would not quiet. I walked the corridors, trying to find peace. And then I felt something. A warmth, a pull. It led me here. To my room. To you." She met his eyes. "Your presence was different from the others. Calm, steady. When I came closer, when I felt your warmth, something inside me changed. An old instinct woke up. Something I thought I had lost forever." Danny did not know what to say. He was just an engineer. He fixed machines. He had no idea how to handle this. "I fell asleep," she continued. "True sleep. For the first time in nearly half a century. And when I woke, I felt something I have not felt in longer than I can remember." "What? Rest?" She said the word like it was sacred. "True rest." Danny let out a slow breath. "Okay, I don't know what that is. But it happened. So what do we do now?" The Queen stood. She was tall enough that her head nearly touched the ceiling of his small room. She looked down at him with an expression that might have been fear. "You must tell no one," she said. "If my people learned that I slept, that I showed weakness, it would destroy everything. There are those who wait for any sign that I am unfit to rule. They would use this against me." "I won't tell anyone," Danny said immediately. "You say that now, but you do not understand the value of what you know. This information could give you power. It could give your people leverage over my entire dominion." Danny shook his head. "I'm not interested in power. I'm just an engineer. I fix things. I don't play political games." The Queen studied him for a long moment. Her golden eyes searched his face, looking for lies, for hidden motives. But Danny had none to hide. "You are strange," she said finally. "Your kind is strange. You need sleep every night. You are vulnerable for hours at a time. And yet you do not fear it." "I guess we're used to it," Danny said. "Humans have always slept. Our ancestors slept in groups to stay safe. We find comfort in being close to others." "Comfort in vulnerability," she murmured. "That is a concept my people do not understand." She moved toward the door, then stopped. She turned back to look at him. "Thank you, Danny," she said. The words seemed difficult for her. for not being afraid, for not running, for giving me one night of peace. Before he could respond, she was gone. The door slid shut behind her. Danny sat alone in his small room. His heart was still beating fast. His mind was still trying to process everything that had happened. The queen of the Kethrani Dominion had slept in his arms, and somehow he had given her something she had not felt in decades. He did not understand it. He was not sure he ever would. But as he got dressed and prepared for another day of work, one thought stayed with him. She had looked so peaceful when she was sleeping, so different from the cold, distant ruler everyone else saw. Maybe there was more to the Kethrani than anyone knew. And maybe, just maybe, there was more to this strange connection than either of them realized. The days that followed were strange for Danny. On the surface, nothing had changed. He still did his job. He still fixed broken systems and maintained the station's equipment. He still stayed out of the way of the diplomats and their important work, but everything felt different. He saw the queen sometimes, during official meetings or formal dinners. She moved through those events like she had before, cold and powerful and distant. She spoke to human leaders with careful words. She negotiated with the patience of someone who had ruled for decades. She never looked at him during those moments. Not once. But later, when the corridors were empty and the station was quiet, she would find him. The first time, she appeared while he was fixing a broken light panel in a storage room. He looked up from his work and she was just there, standing in the doorway like a shadow. "Tell me about dreams," she said. Danny blinked. "What?" "Dreams. When humans sleep, they see things that are not real. Images. Stories. I have read about this, but I do not understand it." Danny set down his tools. Dreams are complicated. Sometimes they're random. Sometimes they mean something. Sometimes you forget them as soon as you wake up. Do you control them? No, they just happen. The queen tilted her head. That seems dangerous. Your mind creates things you cannot control while you are vulnerable and unaware. Danny shrugged. I guess it can be. Nightmares aren't fun, but good dreams can be nice. Sometimes I dream about places I've been, people I miss. It's like visiting them again, even if it's not real. She considered this for a long time. Then she asked more questions. About sleep cycles. About why humans needed darkness and quiet. About why children slept more than adults. About why some people talked in their sleep. Danny answered as best as he could. He was not a scientist. He did not have all the answers. But he told her what he knew, and she listened with an intensity that made him feel like every word mattered. The second time, she found him in the observation deck. It was late, and Danny was watching the stars. Why do humans seek closeness when they sleep? She asked. Danny turned to face her. What do you mean? I have been researching your kind. Many humans sleep beside others, partners, family, even friends. Why is this? Danny thought about it. Safety, I think. Long ago, when humans lived in caves and hunted for food, sleeping alone was dangerous. If you slept near others, you were protected. Someone would wake up if danger came. But you have no such dangers now. Your ships are sealed. Your stations are guarded. Why continue the behavior? Because it feels good, Danny said simply. Being close to someone you trust. Knowing they're there. It's comforting. Even when there's no real danger, it still makes us feel safe. The queen was quiet for a moment. Among my kind, trust is rare. Queens especially must guard against all others. Everyone wants power. Everyone watches for weakness. That sounds lonely. It is necessary. Danny looked at her. In the dim light of the stars, she seemed different. Less like a ruler and more like someone carrying a weight too heavy to bear. Maybe that's why you couldn't sleep for so long, he said gently. You had no one to trust. Her eyes met his. Something flickered in their golden depths. Pain, maybe. Or longing. Perhaps, she admitted. The third time, she came to his quarters again. But this time, she did not stay. She stood in the doorway and asked him questions for an hour, then left before dawn. Danny began to look forward to these visits. He knew he should be worried. He knew that if anyone found out, there would be consequences. But the Queen never threatened him. She never demanded anything. She simply wanted to understand. And Danny found that he wanted to help her understand. But they were not as careful as they thought. Counselor Rythas was old, even by Kithrani standards. He had served 3 queens before Velshira. He had survived palace conspiracies, assassination attempts, and 2 civil wars. He had not survived all of that by being blind. He noticed things. Small things. The way the Queen's patterns had changed. The routes she walked during the night cycle. The times when she was not in her chambers, not in meetings, not anywhere her guards could account for. He noticed the human engineer too. A quiet man who kept to his work. A man who had no reason to cross paths with the Queen, and yet Rythas saw them together, briefly, in a corridor that led nowhere important. The Queen had stopped walking when she saw the human. For just a second, something had passed between them. Rythas did not know what it meant, but he intended to find out. He began to watch more closely. He placed sensors in corridors the Queen might walk. He reviewed records of movement throughout the station. He spoke to the guards, asking subtle questions about their ruler's behavior. And slowly, piece by piece, he began to understand. The Queen was visiting the human, alone, at night. Again and again, Rythas was not shocked. He was pleased. For years, he had believed that Velshira was too strong, too careful, too perfect to ever give him an opportunity. She ruled with an iron will. She showed no weakness. She gave her enemies nothing to use against her. But now she had made a mistake. Rythas did not care about the details. He did not care why she visited the human or what they talked about. All that mattered was that it was secret. And secrets meant shame. Shame meant leverage. He began to make plans. Far away, in a distant star system, a rival faction of the Dominion waited for news. They were the ones who believed Velshira was too soft, too willing to negotiate with lesser species. They wanted war with humanity. They wanted a queen who would lead them to conquest. Rythas had contacts among them. He had always had contacts among them. Just in case, he sent a message. The Queen has shown weakness. I have proof. When the time is right, we will act out in her quarters. Velshira sat alone in the darkness. She thought about sleep. She thought about dreams. She thought about the strange human who had given her something she had not known she needed. She did not know that the walls were closing in around her. And Danny, working late to fix a broken heating unit, had no idea that his life was about to change forever. The conspiracy had begun. Danny was working in the communications relay room when he heard the voices. He had been repairing a damaged circuit board, a routine job that should have taken 20 minutes. The relay room was normally empty during the night cycle. That was why Danny liked working there. Quiet, peaceful, no one to bother him. But tonight, there were others. The voices came from the corridor outside. Danny heard them through the partially open maintenance hatch he had climbed through. He did not mean to listen, but the words made him freeze. The rival faction is ready to move. The voice was sharp and cold. Danny recognized it. Counselor Rythas, and you are certain of her weakness? A second voice. Danny did not know it. I have surveillance recordings. The Queen has been meeting with a human, alone, repeatedly. Whatever their relationship, it is shameful. Enough to turn the other hives against her. Danny's blood went cold. When do we act? Soon. I will present the evidence to the council within the week. By then, our allies will have positioned their fleets. When the council demands her removal, we will have the military strength to enforce it. And if she resists, then she dies. Rythus said it simply, like he was discussing the weather. Either way, the Dominion will have a new queen. One who understands that humans are enemies to be conquered, not partners to be embraced. The voices faded as the two figures moved away. Danny stayed absolutely still, his heart pounding in his chest. They were going to overthrow the Virus Queen. They were going to use what they knew about him and Velshira to destroy her. And after that, they would start a war with humanity. Danny waited until he was sure they were gone. Then he climbed out of the maintenance hatch and ran. He did not go to the Queen. He could not. If Rafis was watching her, if there were surveillance systems in place, any direct contact would make things worse. He needed help. He needed someone with the power to do something. He went to Captain Lisa Grant. It was the middle of the night, but Grant answered her door within seconds. She was not dressed in her uniform. Her eyes were tired. But when she saw Danny's face, she became alert immediately. "Cole, what's wrong?" "I need to tell you something," Danny said. "It's going to sound crazy, but you have to believe me." Grant let him in. Her quarters were small but neat. She sat down and gestured for him to do the same. "Talk," she said. Danny told her everything. He told her about the night he found the Queen in the corridor, about waking up to find her in his bed, about her secret that she had not truly slept in decades, and that something about his presence had triggered an ancient instinct. He told her about the questions she asked, the conversations they had, the growing understanding between them. And then he told her about Rythus, about the conspiracy, about the coup that was coming. Grant listened without interrupting. Her face was unreadable. When Danny finished, she was silent for a long moment. "You're telling me," she said slowly, "that the Queen of the Kathrani Dominion has been sneaking into your room to sleep?" "Not every night. Just that one time. But she's been talking to me, asking questions about humans. And someone saw us. Rythus knows, and he's going to use it against her." Grant rubbed her temples. "Cole, do you have any idea what you've gotten yourself into? I didn't plan any of this. It just happened. But that doesn't matter right now. What matters is that there's a coup coming. If Rythus succeeds, the new leadership will want war. Millions of people will die." Grant was quiet again. Danny could see her thinking, weighing options, calculating risks. "The Queen swore you to secrecy," she said finally. "She'd be furious if she finds out you told me." "I know, but I couldn't think of another way. I can't warn her directly without making things worse. And even if I could, she doesn't have the resources to stop this alone. She needs allies." "Allies," Grant repeated. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You want humanity to intervene in a Kathrani political crisis. Do you have any idea how dangerous that is?" "I know," Danny said. "But what's the alternative? We sit back and watch her fall? We let the war faction take over? How is that better?" Grant did not answer. She stood and walked to her window, staring out at the darkness of space. "The irony," she said quietly, "is that this is exactly what the negotiations were supposed to prevent. We came here to build trust, to prove that humans and Kathrani could work together. Then, this is our chance to prove it," Danny said. "We help the Queen. We stop the coup. We show the Dominion that humanity can be trusted." Grant turned back to face him. "And if we fail? If Rythus finds out we're involved? It could be seen as an act of war. Maybe, but doing nothing is also a choice. And it's a choice that leads to war anyway." Grant studied him for a long moment. Danny saw something change in her eyes. A decision being made. All right, she said. I have a few contacts in Kethrani intelligence. People who are loyal to the Queen. I can reach out to them quietly, see if we can verify what you heard, and find a way to expose Rythus before he makes his move. What about the Queen? Someone needs to warn her. That's your job, Grant said. You're the one she trusts. But be careful. If Rythus is watching, you'll need to find a way to reach her without being seen. Danny nodded. His hands were shaking, but his mind was clear. I'll figure something out. Grant put a hand on his shoulder. Cole, I want you to understand something. What you did tonight, coming to me, telling me the truth, risking everything, that took courage. A lot of people would have stayed quiet and hoped the problem went away. I couldn't do that, Danny said. She trusted me. And even if she hadn't, it's still the right thing to do. Grant smiled, just a little. That's the human way, isn't it? We take care of our own. And somehow, against all logic, we extend that to others too. Danny left her quarters with a plan forming in his mind. He knew the station's maintenance systems better than anyone. There were tunnels and access ways that no surveillance could cover. He could reach the Queen without being seen. He just had to be brave enough to try Dot in her chambers. Valshira sat in darkness, unaware that the trap was closing around her. She thought about the strange human who had shown her kindness without expecting anything in return. She did not know that he was about to risk everything to save her, but she would find out soon. Danny moved through the maintenance tunnels like a ghost. These were the hidden paths of the station, the spaces between walls where pipes and wires ran. No cameras watched here. No guards patrolled. It was just darkness and the hum of machinery. He knew exactly where he was going. He had memorized the layout of the station during his first week. Now that knowledge would save a Queen's life. The tunnels led him to a service hatch that opened into a storage room adjacent to the Queen's chambers. He waited there, listening, until he was certain the corridor outside was empty. Then he slipped out and knocked softly on the Queen's door. It opened almost immediately. Valshira stood there, her golden eyes widening when she saw him. Danny, what are you doing here? If my guards see you, we need to talk, he said. Right now. It's urgent. Something in his voice must have convinced her. She stepped aside and let him enter. Her chambers were larger than his, but just as sparse. The Kethrani did not seem to care for comfort. There was a desk, a few chairs, a viewing screen on one wall. Nothing personal. Nothing warm. Speak, she said. Closing the door, Danny told her everything. About what he had heard in the relay room. About Rythus and his plan. About the rival faction and the coup that was coming. As he spoke, he watched her face. He expected anger. He expected denial. Instead, he saw something worse. Recognition. You knew, he said. You knew there were people plotting against you. I suspected, she admitted. Rythus has always been ambitious. But I did not know he had moved so far. I did not know he had proof. He has surveillance recordings. Of us. Together. The Queen's expression hardened. Then I am already lost. The Council will never stand beside a Queen who has shown such weakness. They will demand my removal, and without military support, I cannot resist. That's not true, Danny said. Captain Grant is working with contacts in your intelligence service, loyalists. If we can expose Rythus' connections to the rival faction before he presents his evidence, the Council will see him as the traitor, not you. Valshira stared at him. You told your captain? I had to. I couldn't save you alone. Her eyes flashed with something: anger, betrayal, fear. I trusted you with my secret. I trusted you not to speak of it. And I trusted that secret to someone who could help, Danny said firmly. I didn't do it to hurt you. I did it because keeping you safe matters more than keeping a promise. You had no right. I had every right. Danny stepped closer, meeting her gaze without flinching. You asked me to tell no one, but you also taught me something. You taught me that among your kind, loyalty is rare. Everyone watches for weakness. Everyone waits for a chance to strike. I'm not like that. I'm human. When we care about someone, we don't just stand by and watch them fall. We fight for them, even if they get angry at us for it. The queen was silent. Her golden eyes searched his face, looking for something. Deception, maybe. Or manipulation. But Danny had nothing to hide. Why? She asked finally. Her voice was softer now. Why would you risk so much for me? We are not allies. We are not kin. You owe me nothing. Danny thought about the question. He thought about all the nights she had come to him with her questions. About the loneliness he had seen in her eyes. About the way she had looked when she was sleeping, peaceful, vulnerable, at rest for the first time in decades. Because everyone deserves someone they can trust, he said. Even a queen. Before she could respond, a soft chime sounded. A communication from Captain Grant. Danny answered. Grant's voice was tense but controlled. We have it. Rytha's S communications with the rival faction. Bank transfers, fleet movements, everything. My contacts are ready to present the evidence to the council. When? Danny asked. Now, Rythas is preparing to make his move in the morning. We have to act first. Danny looked at the queen. It's your choice. If you are willing to work with us, we can stop this. But you have to trust us. Valshira closed her eyes. For a long moment, she did not move. Then she opened her eyes and nodded. Do it. The next few hours moved quickly. Grant's contacts presented the evidence to the Kathrani Council in an emergency session. The recordings were damning. Rythas had not just been plotting against the queen. He had been promising the rival faction territorial concessions that belonged to other hives. His betrayal was not just personal. It was an offense against the entire Dominion. Rythas was arrested before dawn. He raged and demanded to be heard, but no one listened. The evidence was too clear. His allies in the rival faction scattered, their fleets retreating before they could be caught. The coup was over before it truly began. In the aftermath, the queen addressed her people. She stood before the council, tall and composed, every inch the ruler she had always been. But she said something unexpected. I have learned something during these negotiations, she told the council. Something that challenges what I believed about strength and weakness. Humans are not like us. They sleep every night. They dream. They seek comfort in each other's presence. For generations, we have seen these traits as flaws. But I have come to understand that they are not flaws at all. They are the source of human strength. She looked across the council chamber, and her eyes found Danny standing quietly in the back. Humans protect each other, she continued. They take risks for those they care about. They choose loyalty over self-preservation. This is why they have survived. This is why they will continue to survive. And this is why I believe we can build something lasting with them. Not because they are weak enough to be conquered, but because they are strong enough to be trusted. The council was silent. Danny could see them processing her words, turning them over, considering possibilities they had never imagined. It was a beginning. Just a small one. But beginnings were important. Later, when the station had quieted and the diplomats had returned to their quarters, the queen came to Danny one last time. They stood on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. You saved me, she said. You and your captain. You risked everything. It was the right thing to do. She turned to face him. Among my kind, such a debt would never be forgotten. But I do not know how to repay you. Danny smiled. You don't have to repay me. That's not how this works. Then what do humans do when someone helps them? We say thank you, and then we try to do the same for someone else when we get the chance. The Queen considered this a strange way to live. Maybe, but it works for us. She reached out and touched his hand. The gesture was brief, barely a moment, but Danny understood its weight. Among her people, such contact was reserved for those who had earned profound trust. "Perhaps one day I will sleep again," she said, "and perhaps I will not fear it." "When you're ready," Danny said, "I hope you find someone to sleep beside, someone who makes you feel safe." She looked at him for a long moment. Something passed between them, not romance, not exactly, but something deeper. An understanding between two beings who had seen each other at their most vulnerable and had not looked away. "Goodbye, Danny Cole," she said. "I will not forget you. Goodbye, Valshira." She left with her fleet the next day. The negotiations were not finished, but they would continue. There was hope now, where there had been none before. Danny watched a ship depart from the observation deck. The great crescent moon of her vessel grew smaller and smaller until it vanished into the black. He stood there for a long time, watching the stars. He was still just an engineer. He still fixed things that broke. But he had learned something important. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can offer is not strength or weapons or clever plans. Sometimes, it is simply being someone safe to rest beside. And that, in the end, was the most human thing of all.